The sky above the frontier world had been quiet for too long. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the heavy kind that pressed on the mind and refused to lift. The stars were sharp and cold, hanging above broken cities and empty defense towers. Everyone who still lived on the planet knew what that silence meant. It meant waiting. It meant being forgotten not. This world had once been part of a strong alliance. Ships used to arrive every week. Trade convoys filled the orbit. Promises were made in bright halls and sealed with careful words. Those promises had faded when the war spread and stronger worlds chose safer battles. One by one, allies withdrew. Fleets were recalled. Messages slowed, then stopped. Deihayan stood on a raised platform near the old spaceport and looked up at the dark sky. He wore a simple uniform with Earth's symbol on the chest, faded from long use. As a human liaison, he had been sent here years ago to build trust. Now he was one of the last humans left on the planet. He did not feel fear in the way others did. Fear had burned out of him during the long months of silence. What remained was focus and a steady sense of duty. He listened to the distant hum of emergency generators and the soft wind moving through damaged structures. Below the platform, workers moved between shelters. Many were not human. They came from different species, all stranded here together. Some still believed rescue would come. Others had already accepted the end. Era worked inside the main control building near the spaceport. She was an engineer, trained on Earth, but she had stayed when others left. She moved carefully between panels, checking power lines and air systems that were far past their intended use. The lights flickered as she adjusted a console. She frowned, but did not panic. Panic wasted energy. Energy was something they could not afford to lose. She thought of Earth often, not in anger, but in quiet hope. Earth had always been slow to act, but when it acted fully. That was what she had been taught. Still, weeks had turned into months, and hope had become something fragile. A warning sound echoed through the building. Era froze for a moment, then checked the display. Orbital sensors had detected movement at the edge of the system. Her hands tightened. The enemy fleet had arrived. Across the city, alarms began to sound. Not loud, not sharp, but low and steady. Everyone knew what they meant. The final hours had begun. Deihayan received the alert on his wrist display. He did not move at first. He had expected this moment for a long time. He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them and looked toward the horizon. Dark shapes appeared against the stars, large, too large. The enemy ships moved with slow confidence, forming lines as they entered orbit. They did not rush. They had no reason to rush. Defensive platforms activated, old weapons turning toward the sky. Their systems hummed, but Deihayan knew the truth. These defenses could not stop what was coming. They could only delay it. He opened a channel to the control building. Era answered almost at once. Her voice was calm, but he could hear the strain beneath it. "They are here," she said. "I know," Deihayan replied. "Status. Power is stable for now. Shields will hold for a short time. Not long. That will have to be enough." They ended the call without saying goodbye. Words like that were saved for moments that mattered. In the central command chamber, leaders of the remaining defenders gathered. They came from different worlds and spoke different languages, but their expressions were the same: tired, determined, resigned. A tall alien commander looked at Deihayan. "Your people promised support," the commander said slowly. "Will they come?" Deihayan met his gaze. "Earth does not forget," he said, "even when it is silent." The commander said nothing. Hope was a dangerous thing. High above the planet, the enemy fleet completed its formation. Massive ships blocked out sections of starlight. Smaller craft spread outward, surrounding the world in a tightening ring. A message was broadcast on all channels. It was short and cold. Surrender. Power down all weapons. Accept occupation. The defenders did not respond. Instead, the distress beacon continued its signal. It had been active for months, repeating the same message into empty space. A call for help. A reminder of old alliances. A quiet plea sent across the stars. Era checked the beacon's status. Still transmitting. Still unanswered. She hesitated, then increased its power output, even though it strained the system. If this was the end, she wanted the message to be heard as clearly as possible. Daehyun moved through the shelter zones, offering quiet words to those he passed. He did not make speeches. He did not promise victory. He simply stood with them. Children watched the sky through cracked windows. Elders sat in silence, holding hands. Soldiers took positions with weapons they knew might never fire. The first enemy strike hit an outer defense platform. Light flared in orbit. The platform broke apart, scattering debris that burned as it fell through the atmosphere. The ground shook. Shields activated over the main city, glowing faintly. They held, but every impact drained precious energy. Era felt the vibrations through the floor. She adjusted controls, redirecting power, sealing damaged sections. Her mind focused on numbers and systems, not fear. Another platform fell. In orbit. The enemy ships advanced closer. Time stretched. Then something strange happened. Long-range sensors flickered. At first, it looked like static. Then patterns began to form. Readings appeared far beyond the system's edge. Multiple readings. Too many to count. Era stared at the display. Her breath caught. She ran a check. Then another. The readings remained. She opened a channel to Daehyun. "There is something out there," she said, her voice low. "Far out. Massive." Daehyun stopped walking. He looked up at the stars again. They seemed unchanged, calm and distant. "Can you identify it?" "No," Era replied. "But it is not enemy. The energy pattern is different." The distress beacon pulsed. In the command chamber, new alerts appeared. Officers leaned forward, confusion spreading through the room. The enemy fleet noticed it too. Their formation hesitated, lines shifting as sensors struggled to adjust. Then space itself seemed to bend. Light folded inward, forming vast shapes where there had been nothing before. One by one, silhouettes emerged from the darkness. Ships, human ships, they appeared in perfect formation, stretching across the sky like a moving wall of steel and light. Hundreds, thousands, more than anyone had imagined. Earth's insignia shone against the black. For a moment, no one spoke. On the surface, people stepped out of shelters and looked up. Tears filled eyes. Hands trembled. Some fell to their knees. Daehyun felt his chest tighten. He did not shout. He did not cheer. He simply stood and watched as the silent sky finally answered. The waiting was over. Far across the galaxy. On Earth, the signal from the frontier world blinked into a quiet control room. For weeks it had gone unanswered, lost among hundreds of other messages and warnings. But this one had a different pattern. It was urgent, and it carried the weight of life. Si-Jin sat in the command chair, listening to the alert. He was a tall man, with sharp eyes and a mind trained for common. Around him, the control room was alive with movement. Officers checked readings, updated charts, and communicated with distant fleets. Earth had not forgotten. Earth had always remembered. When allies were in danger, humans acted. Not always quickly, but decisively. Se-Jin understood this better than anyone. He had spent his life preparing for moments like this. He leaned back slightly and activated a communication link with fleet centers across the solar system. Ships that had been in dry docks systems that had been waiting in reserve, all received orders simultaneously. Humanity was waking its hidden strength. Hana, a female strategist, worked beside him. She was calm but intense. Her fingers moved quickly over the holographic display, arranging fleets, calculating trajectories, and projecting outcomes. She had no time for fear. This was not a test. This was reality. They think they are safe, she said quietly. They are not, Seijin replied. We do not forget our own. Ships began to awaken. Massive carriers lifted from hidden bays. Battleships activated engines that had been dormant for decades. Smaller craft, agile and fast, launched into formation. It was a ballet of precision and power, a silent orchestra preparing to move across the stars. Each ship carried a human crew, trained to act as one mind. Earth had spent years in preparation, building not just weapons, but coordination, strategy, and discipline. This was not a raid. This was a rescue, and a statement. The control room quieted for a moment. The real work had begun. Hana monitored communications with frontier scouts. They were desperate but steady, giving updates on enemy movements. Reports showed that the alien fleet had begun assaults, believing that no one would answer the call for help. Seijin studied the reports, his mind mapping the distance, speed, and potential outcomes. Every detail mattered. Even a small mistake could cost lives. Humanity would not abandon these people. Not now, not ever. Far from the command center, Earth's engineers were running final checks. Power grids, weapon systems, navigation arrays, all had to be flawless. Each technician knew the stakes. They worked quietly, without complaint, without fanfare. Because they believed in the mission. Hana adjusted the holographic display to show the enemy fleet's estimated positions. She turned to Seijin. They will not expect us to arrive so quickly. That is our advantage? Seijin nodded. We show them our strength, but we act with precision. No unnecessary risk. Protect the innocent first. The first human ships crossed the light years that separated Earth from the frontier world. They moved faster than anyone had thought possible, using hidden corridors and advanced propulsion. Each ship maintained communication, sharing updates and adjusting formation. Back on the frontier world, Daehyun noticed the sensors flicker. Something unusual appeared at the edge of the system. His heart quickened, though he tried to remain calm. Era, monitoring the beacon, saw it too. Something is coming, she whispered. Daehyun did not respond at first. He stared at the sky, watching as the distant shapes began to grow. Slowly, a massive fleet emerged from the darkness. Unlike the enemy ships, these had a familiar form. Sleek, strong, organized, human. The defenders could hardly believe their eyes. For years, they had feared abandonment. Now, hope rose inside them like a long-forgotten fire. Era adjusted the display to track every ship. Their numbers were staggering, more than anyone had imagined. They moved in perfect formation, engines glowing faintly, weapon systems silent but ready. It was not a show of arrogance. It was a promise. Daehyun sent a message to the command chamber. They are here. Leaders stared at the screen. Some could not comprehend what they saw. The humans had arrived, and with them, a power the enemy had underestimated. Seijin's fleet commander voice echoed through the comms. Hold positions. Do not fire unless necessary. We are here to protect, not to punish. But we will respond with force if threatened. Hana watched the enemy fleet from the holographic display. Their formations wavered as they detected the incoming humans. Confusion spread quickly among their command structures. They had expected silence. They had expected fear. They did not expect overwhelming strength, combined with discipline. The frontier world's defenders felt their hearts lift. Soldiers, technicians, and civilians All looked at the approaching human fleet with awe. The despair that had settled over the planet for months began to fade. Deihayan moved through the streets, giving calm instructions. Stay low until we can coordinate. Do not engage until ordered. Trust us. Era joined him outside the control building. She pointed to the sky. They are real. They are actually coming. He nodded. We never doubted them. But seeing them, it changes everything. In orbit, the first human ships aligned into protective formations around the planet. Sensors scanned for threats, energy shields activated, and communication links extended to the defenders below. Earth's fleet was not here to conquer. It was here to rescue, and to ensure that no one could make the mistake of thinking humanity could be ignored, that the alien enemy fleet watched the approaching humans with growing unease. Their previous confidence faltered. Orders became uncertain. Calculations failed to predict the scale of the arrival. In their eyes, the frontier world's defenders saw a shift in power. On the surface, children pointed at the sky. Soldiers clenched their fists, ready to fight alongside their rescuers. Era adjusted the control panels, now working in coordination with the incoming fleet. Deihayan gave simple, clear instructions, ensuring that the defenses and human fleet worked together seamlessly. Se-Jin and Hana monitored everything from Earth, guiding ships and making real-time decisions. They did not leave anything to chance. Every move was deliberate, every action calculated. Their goal was clear: save the frontier world, protect the Ent, and show the galaxy that humanity does not abandon its own dot. As the first exchange of communications between human fleet and planet began, a strange calm settled. It was the calm that comes from knowing help is here, that the wait was over, that the silent sky would no longer be empty. Even in the face of the enemy, the defenders felt strength they had not felt in months. Hope was no longer fragile. It was alive, that the distant hum of engines and shields filled the planet's atmosphere. The frontier world could feel the presence of something larger, stronger, and determined. Humanity had arrived, and with it, the message was clear. They would never be forgotten, never abandoned, and always protected. The first human ships arrived in orbit and held position. They moved with precision that the enemy could not match. Each ship, from the smallest fighter to the largest carrier, followed exact coordinates, creating a wall of defense around the frontier world. The enemy watched, confused and angry. They had expected a weak planet, abandoned and defenseless. Instead, they faced a force they could not easily calculate. Deihayan watched from a high platform on the planet. The sky was filled with human ships, stretching across the horizon like a line of steel and light. The defenders below cheered quietly. Their hope was no longer a distant dream. It was here. Era adjusted the controls in the command building. She coordinated with human ships, sending real-time updates about enemy positions and ground conditions. Her fingers moved quickly over the consoles. Every second mattered. The alien attackers fired first. Energy beams lit the sky, striking outer defense platforms. Explosions shook the ground. But human ships responded not with panic, but with careful coordination. Fighters moved to intercept incoming missiles. Shields activated at precise points. The attack was slowed, and damage was minimized. Deihayan spoke to the soldiers on the ground. Hold positions. Do not fire until I give the order. Watch and learn. The soldiers nodded, their fear replaced by focus. They had waited so long for help that seeing it was almost overwhelming. The enemy had not expected resistance from the skies. They had not expected the humans to arrive. On the surface, civilians watched from shelters and windows. Children pointed and whispered to each other, their eyes wide. Era smiled, though her face was tense with concentration. She had worked for months, sometimes alone, maintaining systems that would be useless if humans did not arrive. Now they were here. Sejin's voice came through the communications. Maintain formation. Protect the planet. Allow no gaps. We will not be drawn into chaos. Hana's fingers flew over the holographic displays in Earth's command center. She tracked enemy movements, calculating their speed, weapon range, and formations. The alien commanders were confused and struggling to respond. Their previous confidence had disappeared. Fighters swooped around larger enemy ships, targeting vulnerable areas. Human cruisers held in precise lines, ready to intercept attacks and protect civilians. The frontier world's defenders saw for the first time how humans fought. It was not reckless, not heroic in a flashy way. It was intelligent, efficient, and decisive. Deihan moved among the soldiers and refugees, giving calm instructions. Trust them. Follow our signals. Protect the innocent. That is your mission now. Era monitored the shields and life support systems. She coordinated with human engineers who were linking their ship's systems with the planet's network. Together, they strengthened defenses in ways the enemy could not anticipate. Weak points were reinforced, vulnerable areas covered, energy flow maximized. The alien fleet tried to adjust. Orders were shouted across command bridges. Some ships turned to attack human ships directly. Others tried to retreat, but formations failed under the pressure. Every move the enemy made was predicted, blocked, or countered. Deihan watched a small group of enemy fighters approach the city. Human interceptors moved in instantly. The battle was fast, precise, and efficient. Explosions flashed across the sky, but the city below remained largely unharmed. People on the streets began to cheer quietly, feeling the first relief in months. Era guided a damaged power generator back online, sending signals to human engineers in orbit. Within moments, energy flowed through the shield network, strengthening weak points. The city's lights flickered on, one by one, giving hope in a visible, tangible way. On the planet's highest hills, Deihan saw humans coordinating with local soldiers. He smiled faintly, proud and relieved. The humans were not only powerful, they were careful, protective, and intelligent. The defenders began to understand why Earth had waited so long to reveal its strength. It was not because they could not help. It was because they prepared to help fully. The first major clash occurred near the orbital docking stations. Enemy ships attempted a concentrated strike, aiming to destroy human carriers. Human fleets anticipated the move. Fighters intercepted attackers before they could reach their targets. Cruisers and carriers activated shields and countermeasures. The battle was quick, and the attackers were forced to retreat. Deihan turned to Era. They learned quickly. Yes, she replied. We all do. The enemy fleet tried to regroup. Their lines wavered. Ships collided, engines misfired, and communication breakdowns caused confusion. The presence of humans alone disrupted their command structure. Deihan realized that the battle might be won not just by weapons, but by the shock of human coordination and strategy. From Earth, Se-Jin and Hana watched every movement. Every decision was calculated, every action deliberate. They allowed some enemy ships to retreat, showing that humanity was not here to destroy indiscriminately. The message was clear. They fought to protect, not to conquer. On the surface, soldiers followed orders. They moved with a new confidence, firing only when necessary, protecting civilians, and coordinating with human forces. Refugees assisted, carrying supplies and guiding others to safety. The planet's people, once resigned to death, now had a purpose and a chance. The enemy fleet's commanders realized their mistake too late. They had underestimated humanity. They had believed that silence and distance meant weakness. Now they faced overwhelming skill, strength, and strategy. Their attacks faltered, and their formations broke apart. Deihayan watched the sky filled with human ships. The horizon was alive with motion, fire, and light. Era worked at the console, eyes focused, moving with confidence. Together, they coordinated with humans above, defending the planet and its people. The first real victory came when an enemy flagship attempted to strike a city sector. Human ships intercepted with flawless timing. The flagship's weapons were neutralized before a shot could land. The city remained unharmed. Civilians cheered. Soldiers saluted. Deihayan stood tall. This was more than just defense. This was a demonstration of human philosophy. Precision, protection, and restraint. Every move was designed to minimize harm while maximizing impact on the enemy. Era adjusted the energy flow to shields, working with human engineers to reinforce weak points. Each adjustment was minor, but the cumulative effect strengthened the entire defense network. Enemy forces tried a desperate maneuver, targeting multiple sectors simultaneously. Human ships adapted instantly. Fighters intercepted threats, cruisers formed new defensive lines, and carriers coordinated with ground defenses. The frontier world had never seen anything like it. For the first time in months, the people of the planet felt safe. Not completely, not permanently, but safe enough to hope. The human fleet had arrived, and with it, the promise of survival. Deihayan turned to the soldiers nearby. This is how we fight. Protect each other. Protect the people. Trust in our strength and our allies. Era nodded, still focused on the displays. We will survive. They will not take this world. The battle continued, but now with new energy. Human ships moved with precision, defending civilians and demonstrating power that the enemy could not match. Every move was calculated. Every decision had purpose. The enemy began to retreat in small groups. Confusion and fear spread through their ranks. They had expected a weak planet and easy victory. Instead, they faced a force that could not be underestimated. The frontier world's defenders watched and learned. They began to coordinate better, follow orders faster, and protect civilians more effectively. Hope was alive, and it spread quickly. Deihayan and Era worked tirelessly, guiding every movement, ensuring that the human fleet and local forces worked together seamlessly. By the end of the day, the enemy fleet had suffered heavy losses and retreated beyond the system. Human ships maintained protective positions, ensuring no further attacks. The frontier world was safe, at least for now. Deihayan looked at the sky, filled with human ships holding their positions. Era joined him. We did it, she whispered. Yes, he said. And this is only the beginning. Above, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if reflecting the presence of the human fleet. The frontier world had been saved, not by chance, but by skill, determination, and the arrival of those who never abandoned their own. The battlefield had quieted, but the work was far from over. Human ships remained in orbit, keeping a protective presence, while smaller craft patrolled the skies. On the surface, human marines and local defenders worked side by side. Civilians were evacuated to safe zones, guided by soldiers and engineers who treated them with care and respect. Deihayan walked through the streets, checking on each unit. He saw soldiers moving cautiously, not recklessly, protecting people rather than chasing glory. They had learned from the humans above. Every action was precise, coordinated, and meant to minimize harm. Era coordinated from the command building, linking her controls with human engineers in orbit. She adjusted energy flow to the city's shields, reinforced damaged sections, and ensured life support remained stable. Every effort was a team effort, blending local knowledge with human technology. Jin's fleet hovered in orbit, ready to respond to any new threats. From Earth, he coordinated with Hana, who monitored every sector. They made strategic decisions, prioritizing the safety of civilians and the preservation of the city's infrastructure. The alien forces were scattered, some retreating, some hiding, trying to regroup. Human Marines were careful, avoiding unnecessary destruction. They engaged only when an enemy threatened civilians or critical systems. The message was clear. Humanity fights to protect, not to dominate. Daehyun oversaw a group of soldiers clearing debris from a collapsed street while evacuating civilians. Children and elders were helped gently, guided to safer areas. Era watched power lines and water systems as they were repaired, coordinating with human engineers who adjusted systems remotely from orbit. Small pockets of enemy forces attempted to strike again, thinking the humans had left the surface to the local defenders. They were met quickly with precision strikes from human units and automated defense systems. Attacks were neutralized before significant damage could occur. Local soldiers were learning to anticipate enemy tactics. Guided by human strategy. Era moved from console to console, checking data and rerouting power. She spoke calmly into the comms. Sector 4 shields are weak, redirecting additional energy. Human engineers are assisting. Civilian areas will be fully protected. Daehyun coordinated ground units. Form a perimeter around the evacuation zones. Protect everyone. Do not chase enemy units unless they pose immediate threat. Watch and learn from the humans. The alien forces were confused and fearful. They had not expected such organized defense. Their attacks faltered. They tried to regroup, but every movement was anticipated by human. Ships above and coordinated forces on the ground. Civilians began to work alongside the defenders, carrying supplies and assisting with logistics. The frontier world's people were no longer passive observers. Hope had given them purpose. They moved with direction, guided by human strategy. Daehyun watched a small group of enemy fighters attempt to sneak into the evacuation zones. Human Marines intercepted them instantly, neutralizing the threat without collateral damage. The defenders were amazed at the precision and restraint. They realized that strength could be measured not by destruction, but by protection. Era adjusted the city's energy shields once more, reinforcing weak points and stabilizing the remaining infrastructure. Her work allowed civilians to move safely and soldiers to operate with confidence. Every adjustment made the city safer. Every calculation saved lives. Sejin and Hana monitored the situation from orbit and Earth. They coordinated efforts to ensure no sector was left vulnerable. They had prepared for this moment, anticipating enemy maneuvers and deploying human forces in ways that the local defenders could follow. The combined effort of humans and frontier world forces was seamless. Enemy commanders realized they could not win. Their confidence had been broken by precision, strategy, and the protective power of humans. Retreat was their only option. Some tried to escape quietly, but human scouts tracked them, ensuring they posed no further threat. Daehyun gathered the local defenders. This is what we do. Protect our people. Stand together. Follow the strategy and work with our allies. Never abandon anyone. Era joined him. They have shown us that we can survive. That strength is not only about power, but about protecting others. This is how we fight now. The final pockets of resistance were eliminated or captured without unnecessary destruction. Enemy units realized the truth too late. Humanity's strength was unmatched, not only in technology and firepower, but in discipline and philosophy. Every decision had purpose, every action was measured, and no ally was left behind. Human Marines worked alongside local soldiers, teaching techniques and strategies. Civilians assisted with rebuilding and repairs. The city slowly returned to a sense of normalcy, though the memory of battle lingered. There was grief, but also hope. Daehyun walked through the streets, observing repairs and coordination. Soldiers and civilians worked together, guided by human principles of protection and care. Era moved alongside him, monitoring systems and communicating with human engineers. Together, they ensured that no mistake went uncorrected. Seijin issued orders for the human fleet to maintain orbit, ensuring the planet remained safe while repairs continued. Hana continued to track any potential threats, making adjustments as needed. Their presence was a reminder that Earth would always respond, that humanity would not abandon those who called for help. The frontier world's people began to rebuild. Streets were cleared, buildings reinforced, and life support systems stabilized. Children played in safe zones. Soldiers trained and learned from human marines. Civilians coordinated logistics and repairs. Everyone understood the lesson. Strength is not in abandoning your own, but in protecting and defending them. Daehyun and Era stood on a high platform, watching the progress. "We have learned from them," Daehyun said. "Yes," Era replied, "and we will carry it forward. We do not leave our own behind." Human ships remained in orbit as guardians, not conquerors. Their presence ensured that the frontier world could rebuild safely. The enemy had been broken, but humanity had shown restraint and discipline. They had fought to protect, to save, and to teach a lesson about honor and strength. The people of the frontier world began to adjust to this new reality. They had seen what human determination and strategy could achieve. They had learned to trust again, to believe that help would come when needed. Hope was no longer fragile. It was alive, growing, and guiding every step forward. Daehyun and Era continued their work, coordinating between local defenders and human forces. Every decision, every adjustment, every instruction was a step toward stability. The planet was not yet fully safe, but it had a chance to survive and thrive. The enemy fleet had retreated, and the frontier world had survived. Humanity's message was clear. They would answer the call, defend their allies, and ensure that no one was left behind. The lesson was written in the actions of humans, the protection of civilians, and the precision of every strike dot. As night fell on the frontier world, the people looked up at the sky. Human ships remained in orbit, glowing faintly against the stars. They were silent guardians, a reminder that the galaxy had changed. Humanity had arrived, and their strength was measured not only in weapons, but in the care and protection of those who depended on them. Daehyun looked at Era. "We will never forget this." "No," she replied, "and we will make sure others do not forget either. This is how we fight now, together." The frontier world had learned a lesson it would carry forever. Humanity did not abandon its own. Humanity fought to protect, and in doing so, changed the lives of everyone who witnessed their arrival. The battle was over, but the frontier world still smelled of smoke and dust. Human ships remained in orbit, guarding the planet while repairs continued on the ground. Daehyun walked through the streets, observing the reconstruction. Civilians moved with purpose, rebuilding homes and restoring systems. Soldiers trained, guided by human marines, who remained on the planet to teach and assist. Era checked energy systems, communicating with human engineers in orbit. Together, they ensured that life support, power grids, and communications were fully functional. Every repaired system was a reminder that help had arrived and would not leave until the world was safe. Seijin coordinated the fleet, maintaining strategic positions around the planet. Hana monitored the surrounding space, tracking any remaining enemy movements. Their presence was a promise that Earth's commitment was real and lasting. The enemy had been defeated, but their retreat carried a message. Humanity would not abandon its own. On the surface, Daehyun and Era guided the defenders in rebuilding key infrastructure. Streets were cleared, shelters repaired, and defensive platforms stabilized. Human marines taught soldiers new techniques for coordination and precision. Civilians assisted in logistics, learning to work together efficiently. Hope was no longer fragile. It had taken root. The remaining enemy forces had fled, scattered across the system. Human scouts tracked them to ensure they posed no further threat. The message was simple. Any future attack would be met with equal or greater force. The frontier world was protected, and those who had tried to conquer it would think twice before returning. Deihan gathered the local defenders and civilians. This is what it means to be protected, to fight together, to never leave our own behind. Era added, "We have learned from those who came. Their strength is not just in weapons, but in their care, their strategy, and their discipline. This is the way forward." The people of the frontier world began to understand. They had witnessed what humans could do. They had seen the balance of power, the care for allies, and the intelligence in every decision. Humanity's arrival had not been a display of dominance. It had been a lesson in protection, strategy, and respect for life. From orbit, Seijin addressed the human fleet. "We will maintain presence until the planet is stable. Civilians and soldiers alike will be safe. We do not leave our own." Hannah sent communications to the frontier world's command centers. Every sector was monitored, and assistance was provided wherever needed. The work was not about conquest or glory. It was about protection, rebuilding, and teaching a standard of defense and coordination. Deihan walked with soldiers through the central city. Children laughed as they helped carry supplies. Civilians repaired damaged shelters. Soldiers learned from human Marines how to coordinate their movements and maximize protection. Every action was a step toward stability. Era monitored energy and water systems. Human engineers guided her in real time, making adjustments that stabilized the city further. Power grids hummed steadily, lights returned to buildings, and water systems flowed without interruption. Life returned, slowly but steadily. The alien enemy had been broken. Retreating units had learned a painful lesson. Humanity was not weak. Humanity did not forget. Humanity would answer calls for help with overwhelming precision and strength. The frontier world's people understood this, and so did the scattered enemy. Deihan addressed the assembled defenders and civilians. "Remember what you saw. Remember how we fought together. Remember the humans who came to protect us. We will not be alone again." Era joined him. "And we will help others. We will take what we learned and apply it. Strength is not in domination, but in protection and unity." The humans in orbit prepared a message for the galaxy. It was simple, clear, and broadcast across known systems. Every world, ally or enemy, would understand. Humanity will answer calls for help. Humanity will protect its own. Humanity will arrive, and it will bring strength, strategy, and discipline. On the surface, the frontier world began to feel normal again. Streets were cleared, children played safely, and soldiers moved with confidence. Civilians coordinated with Marines and engineers to stabilize essential systems. Hope was alive, and it was guiding every step. And Deihan and Era stood together, watching human ships maintain orbit. "They taught us well," Deihan said. "Yes," Era replied. "And we will carry it forward. This is how we live now. This is how we fight now." The frontier world was no longer abandoned. It had allies, and those allies were strong, disciplined, and protective. Humanity had shown that it did not leave anyone behind. The lesson was clear. When humanity says it will come, it always does. The alien enemy would remember this. The frontier world would remember this. And the humans would continue to act as guardians, protectors, and teachers. The message written in the stars was simple. Strength is measured not by destruction, but by the protection of those who cannot defend themselves. As night fell, the people of the planet looked up at the glowing human ships. They were silent watchers, reminders of strength, discipline, and hope. Daihayan and Era joined the children in pointing at the ships, a sense of awe and relief spreading through everyone. The frontier world had survived. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never underestimate Earth again.